You're listening to Local Color on 88.7 WNCW. Tonight, we resume our Local Color live at Landslide sessions, courtesy of Landslide Studio, a full-service recording destination located just minutes north of the heart of downtown Asheville. You can find out more information at www.landslidestudio.com. They are dedicated to serving the needs of the local music community. Tonight, we have the man behind the board. He's actually in here recording with his band, Worldline, Mr. Andrew Schatzberg. Welcome. Can you tell me who everyone is really briefly before we start?
Absolutely. The keyboards, we got Brian Turner. On bass guitar, we have Dave Mack. On the drums, Springs Wade. And playing guitar, Naren Schonecker.
Great. Well, what are you guys going to start us off with?
This first song is called Fear and Fire.
Setting sun on the horizon, traveling west, racing against the light. It's an idea on the tip of your tongue, a melody turned into a song.
You're listening to Local Color live at Landslide, courtesy of Landslide Studio. Tonight's guest, Worldline, which, if you talk to a physicist, might mean the unique path of an object as it travels through space and time. Pretty fancy definition. I'm wondering which of you guys dabbles in that with all that spare time.
Well, we're all really interested in time travel, me especially. So it's something that inspires me to write songs about moving in time. Yeah.
So is that something that kind of brought you guys together with the formative parts of the band, or?
Well, we came together in kind of a strange array of travel, I guess you could say. I've kind of met these guys through the last 5 years or so working in the studio here. Met Dave Mack playing with Pierce Edens and Brian Turner playing with Peggy Retus, and Springs has kind of been in and out of the studio doing internships and learning about recording, and we've played music together probably when he first moved into town from Rhode Island. And Narin just recorded his solo record here at Landslide. So
that he did, yeah.
So it was a great way to
I thought you
meet
two
people.
guys looked a little bit familiar. Springs is on the drums, and we've got Narin here on the guitar, and these guys help make the sessions each week sound good and tight as well. So talk a little bit. I know you mentioned the origin story. You spent some time traveling. You went to Chapel Hill, then you went out to the West Coast.
Yeah, I went to school at Carolina, Chapel Hill, and played in bands out there, and kind of that's where I cut my teeth, playing shows and learning to record, and recording friends' bands and doing all that stuff. And was there about 4 or 5 years, and just really enjoyed it. Just that scene out there it's great. It's so vibrant, so much going on musically. Eventually went out to California. After traveling out there a few times, I kind of fell in love with just the Highway 1 experience, I guess. And so, moved out to Santa Cruz, California, was living there for about 2 years. And eventually I got the urge to build a recording studio and wanted to do that. And whereas, in California, everything's so expensive, there was no way that was going to happen. So we came back, my wife and I, we came back to Asheville and started building Landslide in 2004.
Nice. So talk a little bit about that Highway 1 experience. It seems like there's a lot of artists, poets, musicians that take advantage of that too.
Well, if you've ever traveled on the Pacific Coastal Highway, I mean, it's just such an epic experience. I mean, you're up on these cliffs looking down at the ocean, and I mean, it's so intense. Just the scenery out there, the landscapes, they're so inspiring. And of course, when I was in my mid-20s, doing that, traveling, everything seemed limitless, and that just sort of adds to the experience when you're there and looking at the Pacific. And so that was a really big source of inspiration for me when I was living in California.
Definitely seems like it would inspire you to want to come back home and put together a big, massive rock and roll band.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I had to take a little break to focus on the studio, from my own music, but I've gotten the opportunity to work with just some amazing musicians, over the course of the years. And I kept thinking, God, I just can't wait to do my own music again. And every time I meet a great musician, Dave Mack, for example, I thought, hey, he'd be a great guy to have in a band, or Brian, on the keys. And so it's just really, I've been lucky to have this, fuel the band, the studio. So
we are talking today with Worldline, and it looks like they've got a couple area shows coming up. The first is at Preservation Pub Wednesday, May the 2nd. That's over in Knoxville. It's at 9:30 p.m. And then again at the Lab on Friday, May the 4th at 9:30 p.m. Now, are both of these CD release shows?
In theory, yes. Knoxville's, we've played about 3 or 4 shows there over the last year, so that sort of feels a little bit like a second home to us. We really like being at the Preservation Pub. Their staff and the facility is just, people are so nice there. But the real proper CD release show is going to be at the Lexington Avenue Brewery on May 4th. So we're really excited about that show. We're going to have some special surprises that evening, and I think it's going to be a great set.
Okay, well, I want to talk a little more about those special surprises and the new record, but can we get to another tune first?
Absolutely. This next song is called Broken Knuckles.
is so true. You broke away from those days. You got greedy while you grew. Over your shoulder, you far away. You never turn around. You kept your balance on one foot. You're not afraid to hit the ground. Tired eyes and weary hands. Bent knees like a rubber band. One more meal, it's another can. I said rock and roll records and rock and roll bands. Broken knuckles, the joke is over. Sunken eyeballs, the joke is over. The moments run like raindrops down the drain. The daylight fades like a paper in a windshield. Smiles turn upside down. Raw onions and orange peels. You once were held in your mama's arms. How dare you dream such rotten dreams? Or believe in shady schemes, or ever cross the street. Every day it's your birthday gift. Every day it's your dying wish. Every day it's the inside out of another child in doubt. Broken knuckles, the joke is over. Sunken eyeballs, the joke is over. Broken knuckles, the joke is over. The joke is over.
You're listening to the music of Worldline, recorded at Landslide Studio for WNCW's Local Color. And you guys just got done doing your latest record, Inside the Noise. Is that right?
Yeah, we just finished up this record. We've been working on it for about a year and a half since we put the band together, and it's been it's been a long road, but we're really excited about this record, and I can't wait to go out and support it with some shows that we've lined up in North Carolina and just around the area. We'll be going to Chapel Hill and Wilmington, and so excited to take it on the road.
Yeah, a year and a half. That's quite an incubation period.
Well, some of these songs have been around for a little while, but you know, we were kind of writing some of our parts and stuff as we recorded, you know, finding our ways through these songs. So, you know, as we recorded them, they kind of told us what they needed, and you know, we try not to force the process. And of course, we're all sort of limited in time because we have full-time jobs, and so between the studio and Narn lives in Brevard, so he's coming up from Brevard twice a week, which is quite a haul. And so trying to make this all come together, it was pretty crazy experience.
Our time with it though to make it sound good.
And yeah, that's another big part of it. Is we wanted to make sure we were happy with it, and we had the luxury of having a studio to record it in. So
Sure. So you mentioned earlier that you were all busy writing parts. How does that work? Does everyone each kind of handle their own little section and it all comes together, or do you write parts for everyone else?
No, yeah. Typically speaking, like we've got sort of the structure of the song down, and then we'll start experimenting with ideas. Where, for example, like Narin didn't know what he wanted to do on some parts of the songs, whether it be the verse or the chorus, and he'll just start experimenting, trying, improvising in the studio, coming up with ideas, and we work back and forth really well like that. So he'll try something, and he might not like it, and I'll be like, no, that's great, just keep going, and let's see where it takes us. And so no idea is a bad idea is kind of our rule, and so we live by that in the studio. And so sometimes you start off with something that's not so great, but it leads you somewhere that really is. And so same thing with Brian, you know, it's we're in the studio, and he's got like 4 keyboards, you know, you can't see him on the radio, but he's got 4 keyboards here, which is kind of crazy, and so it's pretty limitless in terms of the possibilities of what he could possibly play in at any given moment. So we took our time.
So taking more of an experimental approach as opposed to must get it done, regimented, orderly. It sounds like that's kind of how it was.
Yeah, I mean the being able to be in the studio and take your time with it and just see where the songs lead you is quite a luxury, and we've been really lucky and fortunate to have that. So
great. Well, I definitely want to talk a little bit more about that and balancing, you know, being the engineer as well as being part of the project. But first, I want to let folks know that this is Worldline, and they've got 2 shows coming up in our area. First, Wednesday, May the 2nd at 7 p.m. at Preservation Pub over in Knoxville. And then their big CD release show for the region, or actually for Asheville, would be at the Lexington Avenue Brewery on Friday, May the 4th, 9:30 p.m. Is anyone going to be joining you guys on the bill that night?
So the CD release show at the lab, Doc Aquatic has agreed to kick off that evening, and they are just an amazing band. We had them in the studio a couple weeks ago, and we really enjoyed those guys, both their personalities and their music. So it's going to be a fun night. I'm pretty sure about that. So.
That seems like a good pairing too.
Yeah, you know, they're different enough that I think it will add variety, but not so far out there from what we're doing that, you know, people can't wrap their heads around it.
Sure.
So, yeah, we're excited about checking them out that night. So,
we are listening to music from Worldline. Can we get to another tune?
Absolutely. This is Destiny Drifts.
tigers growl at the mirage. There's no effect, only cause in there. Emptiness, destiny, it just drifts. glass. The nights dissolve and the days pass. Images distort, fear wins out. Hope is overwhelmed by doubt. In this emptiness, destiny, it just jammed. Loneliness, sadness do not exist. Contradiction, conflict, but we can coexist.
Blowing the roof off the studio with music from Worldline, courtesy of Landslide Studio, as part of WNCW's Local Color. That tune was Destiny Drifts from their new album, Inside the Noise. That one's coming out Friday, May the 4th, right in town at the Lexington Avenue Brewery. So, Andrew, most bands these days have gotten to where they'll get a couple of mics, maybe good ones, maybe not so good ones, and they'll hole up in their basement or discover new and intriguing ways to position mics in their bathroom. You guys aren't doing that at all. Talk a little bit about Landslide and its growth over the years and how it's helped you with your own music.
Sure, yeah. When I first started doing this, I was one of those guys in the basement, just trying to get my hands on any mics I could and just trying different stuff and doing a lot of different experimenting, just making something out of nothing pretty much, And after having done that for years and years, I've collected things, and have come in contact with some pretty cool microphones and guitars and, whatever I can get my hands on to make some cool noises, and keyboards too. And, when I decided that I wanted to put the studio together, I'd already had a fairly decent collection of stuff and, made another investment and bought some more things. But it's been sort of a slow process because one of the things I like doing at Landslide is making the studio accessible to people who don't have tons and tons of money. So I didn't go out and buy the most expensive stuff right off the bat, and it was really just a matter of collecting things and being able to keep my prices down. That was always my goal. And so now it's been long enough. It's since I started this 7 years almost, that I've got a pretty good collection of all that fun stuff to make all those wacky, crazy noises, and also doing just really great microphones for capturing really honest, awesome vocal performances from some of the best, what I consider some of the best vocalists in Asheville. So
sure,
yeah.
And it's definitely seemed to have furthered what you're doing with Worldline too. Having the time seems to be the biggest luxury that musicians strive to attain.
Well, it's a double-edged sword. If you have too much time, sometimes that leads to you just never finish. Yeah. So it's a painting, you just don't ever know when the painting's done, and you've got to make that decision at some point. And so yes and no. In a lot of ways, it's been we've been so fortunate to have the studio and to try every single idea that pops in our head. And believe me, there was a lot of those ideas, some of them insane, and we tried them anyway. Yeah, right. So a lot of those ideas didn't make the cut, but we try them anyway. And at some point, though, like I said, you just got to decide that you're finished. And pretty much when you're done working on a record, you've probably got another 10 songs in the bag that are ready to go. And so, you still love those songs, they're your babies, but at the same time, you're ready to move on to the next batch.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. So in addition to fronting a band, running a studio, you also run a record label. How does that fit into the overall vision?
Yeah, so the label is sort of an extension of the studio in that I've come in contact with just some great artists, and they get done with a record and they're like, what do I do with this thing? So, I've been around it long enough that I've had some experiences that I could pass on to some other people, and so the label just sort of seemed like a natural progression for me from the studio to be able to help artists take their music to the next place, wherever that is, And it's a small label. We don't have a huge roster or anything, but I'm able to give attention to each of the artists that are on it and really help them sort of get their music out, especially locally in and around Asheville. But Saint Solitude is one of the artists that's on the label, and he just finished up East Coast tour, and we did a huge campaign for him, and had his music playing all over the country on radio stations, which was really exciting. And to have him be able to go out on the road and do that was, alongside the radio campaign, it was pretty exciting.
Good stuff. Yeah. You mentioned having lived back in North Carolina for 7 years, specifically Asheville. What have you noticed over that time with regard to the rock scene in general?
Yeah, when I first got to Asheville, there was a lot more sort of organic jam band, bluegrass stuff going on in and around Asheville, and that's interesting, good stuff. But there wasn't as much of the indie rock stuff happening. Wasn't as much sort of noisy rock and roll. And I've definitely seen, with the addition of the Orange Peel coming into town, so some more of that music filtering in, and the clubs in town have really, started supporting, more of that music. So you're starting to see a lot more of the noisy rock and roll bands coming out of Asheville, which is pretty cool. It used to be just, if you wanted that sort of thing, Chapel Hill was your place. But, now Asheville is definitely part of that scene.
Definitely seems like it's come a long way with regard to that. We're talking today with Worldline. They have got a CD release show coming up Friday, May the 4th at the Lexington Avenue Brewery at 9:30 p.m. Also that week, they'll be in Knoxville, Tennessee, Wednesday, May the 2nd. That's at the Preservation Pub. Can we get to one last tune?
Absolutely. This next song is called Key on a Kite.
An earthquake. I can't see straight. I can't even see crooked. The lines are so blurred. I can't make sense of this noise. I can almost hear your song, but I can't. I've been tired nights trying to hold this plot together. You keep writing crazy twists, turning forever into never. How can I predict the future? Love. I can't even control what we've got. You just keep getting further away.
You've been listening to music from Worldline, recorded at Landslide Studio for Local Color. Brian, David, Springs, Naurin, and Andrew, thank you so much for bringing your music.
Thank you so much for having us, Laura.